Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
Not a lot.
Okay, let's move on then.
I watched some of the initial rounds of the Scripps National Spelling Bee. And that happened.
Did it?
Yeah.
Good.
That'll continue later in the month, and then next month. It's very, very exciting stuff when it's all virtual and awkward.
So which spelling bee is this?
The Scripps National Spelling Bee over in the US.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they usually assemble in a big hall, but it's done virtually now.
This year until the finals, when they only have to cart over 10 to 12 spellers instead of the 209 that qualified.
How do they scrutinise being done virtually that their parents aren't
holding
iPads up?
There is a proctor with each of the spellers in wherever they're doing it.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Baseball's back, and lots of things are happening, and I've sort of gone blank just now on what exactly.
Yeah, that's because I put something in the food tonight.
Yeah.
I knew that's where we'd head, knowing that the new season or the season reopening, the whatever it is called when it starts up again, was happening.
As expected, unwins, which is to say negative wins, became wins again. As I was expecting,
losses have become wins as well.
No. The black hole, which was created when the original sun collapsed in on itself, which normally, if you score 10 runs, your opponent loses a win.
Right.
Now grants your opponent a win, which is,
Okay.
Should avoid scoring 10 runs under a black hole now, I guess. A bunch of decrees expecting to increase wins. Yep. So just more wins all round. It's a win-win, apparently. How much of a win it actually is remains to be seen.
So is that like tennis scoring? Instead of winning a point each time you win that round, you get 10 points. Everyone gets 10 points. So it doesn't make any sense why they don't count 1, 2, 3 instead of...
A player who, at the end of last season, had been granted the 5th base, began to roam around the league, just joining different teams for reasons, and then just recently placed the 5th base in one of the stadiums, and so now that stadium has a 5th base that you must run to.
Right.
Instead of there just being 4 bases.
4 bases, okay.
And the 5th base is like further away from home than the original.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's a difficulty. What else happened?
So you hope that you don't ever have to play at that stadium.
Which eventually
will happen.
Yeah.
What have I been up to, is what you're going to ask.
Yeah, I've totally blanked on what else is going on.
Yeah,
I was going to
that
make
was the
notes,
plan.
and then I didn't.
I haven't done any truck driving this week.
Neither have I.
However, keeping up with the theme of pretending to do someone else's usual daytime job, I played through Firewatch. Have you played Firewatch
I've
at all?
not played Firewatch.
I must
no.
let you play Firewatch. It is quite an experience. It's sort of a cinematic choose-your-own-adventure type of free roam, but it's sort of free roam on tracks, I guess. You can just keep free roaming, but if you want the story to progress, then...
And then I noticed you had a look at some dev commentary stuff in the game, possibly?
That was the interesting thing, because the game takes possibly 3 to 5 hours to play, so it's not a particularly long game. I possibly took longer than most people because I kept on getting distracted by things and what have you. And then discovered after completing the game that a number of months after they originally released it, it's a fairly old game, came out in 2016, they then released basically a commentary where you go around again, but they've got little posts that when you run into them, you can listen to some audio commentary and look at some pictures and what have you. And it was fascinating. And it also helped me discover things that the way that I ran through it the first time I didn't come across, which can happen. Certain decisions that you make will affect how conversations occur. And I loved it. I really did. It was quite an intense and also emotional type experience, and a wonderful bit of world building. And that added extra. There was a lot of thought put into that as well. They added it's like a 3D world and it's first person, but they added things to explain how they. What was once a clearing had a whole bunch of figures, mannequin figures standing in it,
right,
at various distances away from you that were all roughly the same size, but it's what they used in the development to make sure that everything looked to scale from distances and things like that. So, absolutely excellent experience. I'm not being paid for this promotion, but on GOG.com it is currently available for $4.99 Australian dollars.
Right.
So, yeah, well worth picking up. I don't know what that translates. 50 cents maybe in the US.
Probably has a specific price.
That's
over
right.
there.
Yeah. Do yourself a favour, and it's quite sweary in places, but it's keeping on that theme after living my life as a Firewatch in the towers of Wisconsin, I think it was. I then went on to colonize Mars by testing out Surviving Mars, which I then realised that I've tried before, and I remembered why I didn't get very far through it.
Right.
I don't cope very well with all of this micromanagement stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this is micromanagement of, you've got to control X, but in controlling X, you've got to also control Y that feeds X, and you've got to make sure that Y gets A, B, and C, which is provided by W, which only occurs if you are doing this. It is just over the top for me personally. I know a little after my late teens playing SimCity and quite enjoying that, but that was sort of more gross control over the world, whereas this was just micromanaged to the max. I spent ages trying to decide from a list of hundreds of candidates who's going to be in the first 14 places for the colony, and each each of those people has certain skills and certain attributes and things like that. And it's just, ay. So, yes, I uninstalled it. I said, no, I'm not getting any fun or enjoyment out of this at all. Whereas Firewatch, yeah, brilliant.
And so concludes the media review portion of our podcast.
That's right. The question is, do we ask you to do yourself a favour and watch the movie that we're about to watch? You have not seen this, have you?
I've not, no.
No. What are we watching today?
We are watching Moon.
Luna.
Big rock.
Floating
Big
through
sky
space, causing waves and howlings of dogs. Yes, we're watching Moon, directed by the same person who directed Source Code, which I know you have on your list of things that one day you'd like to watch or rewatch. I think you
rewatch, I think,
yes.
Yeah.
Please, tell us, what is Moon all about, ostensibly?
Sam Bell is nearing the completion of his 3-year-long contract with Lunar Industries, mining Earth's primary source of energy on the dark side of the Moon. Alone with only the base's vigilant computer Gertie as his sole companion, Bell's extended isolation has taken its toll. His only link to the outside world comes via satellite messages from his wife and young daughter. He longs to return home, but a terrible accident on the lunar surface leads to a disturbing discovery that contributes to his growing sense of paranoia and dislocation so many miles away from home.
Would you do the honours and open the case? A throwback to older times. He's going to take the disc out of the case. He's going to pop it into our DVD player. It is a DVD copy. It is not streaming on any of our services, so we are dusting off the DVD copy of this. We're going to watch it and give you our thoughts on the flip side.
Turn side B.
The dark side of the Moon.
Or the dark side of the disc.
No, it's going to be the shiny side of the disc.
Yeah.
You mongrel.
Yeah. The dark side of the disc doesn't have any data on it, so I wouldn't bother.
Okay, let's watch this. So, what did you think?
Yeah, that was all right. That was good for being 90 minutes.
Yes. Any longer than that?
Mm-hmm.
There were some spots in it that it felt stretched. I do confess that second time round or third time round, I can't remember how many times I've seen it before, I was, I guess, nitpicking the plot holes, I guess, in it. So, yeah, I was curious as a first time through how it fared as far as that was concerned.
A worse film would have added some sort of contrived emergency in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To add another half hour.
Yep. In a lot of ways, feels... I mean, the comparisons have been 2001, A Space Odyssey, and it does certainly have that vibe as far as Hal and Gertie. And the other vibe I got was Silent Running, which came a year after 2001 with the environmental ships. I don't know whether you remember that.
I don't remember it, no.
Had 3 droids in it that... Huey, Louie and Dewey. Doesn't ring any bells?
No, it doesn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You bring it up from time to time as if I should know it.
Yes, you should know that.
I don't.
I'm going to have to check whether that's on the rewatch list now. Okay, so 2001 meets Silent Running meets The Twilight Zone. Because it really has a Twilight Zone vibe to it. The things out of whack and why it's out of whack, I guess. A good, solid film that does have some plot holes. I think that had me occasionally asking, why is that the way it is? All of the special effects, well, sorry, I can't say all of them. There was certainly some CG, but it was predominantly traditional model work, and it had a very Thunderbirds in a good ways vibe to it.
It's a low budget film.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. You only have to watch the credits, the few minutes that it runs, to know that it is quite possibly a low budget film, but every single penny appears on screen.
Yes.
And they would have had to pay for some music rights there as well. But
yeah, it sort of has that indie feel without...
It really does, yeah.
Being as unpolished as some indie stuff can be.
Yeah, the interior was solid. It felt like an environment that is lived in, is worked in, and has been for some time. And yet, sometimes when they try to do that, the set dressers botch it, and you can tell that it's been set dressed to look a certain age. This looks like it has been lived in. Every mark is there from previous occupants.
It looks like it could reasonably have been used for anywhere from, say, 3 to 15 years. Just pulling that out of the air.
Yeah. Between 3 to 15 years. So we're avoiding spoilers, aren't we?
which is slightly weird, because the way it came up does reveal something about the film.
That's right. The yes, the recommendation.
Clones. It's a film about clones.
It is.
It's a film about ethics and not having them.
Yeah. And cover-ups and when things get uncovered
and corporate greed.
Yeah. Sorry, now, do you know the budget?
The budget was apparently about 5 million.
Okay.
And it made about double that at the box office.
Yep. I'm curious to know how much of that went to Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. Don't know.
Or whether he did it for the craft.
Well, the cast was very small.
It was, yes. And we're possibly entering spoiler territory, but I do want to talk about it. The locked-off camera shot with the tennis table with the two clones being played by the same person, and thinking, yes, we've seen all this before. You lock off the camera, and you've got to split through the middle. And then the table gets bumped, and they walk in front of each other, and very clever. Clever. Almost to the point of we've just been set up. So in a way, that actually took me out of the film, which is an unfair criticism, possibly. But
the music was good, very reliant on one theme.
Yes. Yep. I couldn't hum it. I could probably do a dum, 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 dum. I think there was a bit of that happening.
Yeah, very much on the beat chords, just every...
Yep.
With some sort of repeating motif over the top.
Yep.
But reasonable enough.
Yep.
It worked.
Makeup was great as far as getting very, very sick.
Yes.
My question is, again, entering into spoiler territory, is the guy who lived going to die in 3 years' time?
That is implied by the previous inhabitants of the station.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
Which makes me question that's one of my why question marks as to why it's done that way, and
I get the impression the reveal to the outside world is a little more pressing than longevity.
Yeah.
Like, he's got 3 years left. Hopefully can sort something out.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have anything else you wish to...
No. Film works.
Mm-hmm.
It is a reasonable enough film.
Yeah. I'm feeling a little flatter about it, but I don't know whether that's my frame of mind at the moment, or the fact that once the reveal is done, there's no going back, and so you don't get that. But I think you had a hunch going in right from the start that clones were involved. So.
A hunch. No, not a hunch. Directly told.
Yes. It's a good enough film, but it's not on my top 10 list of films.
Won a Hugo.
Okay.
And nominated for a BAFTA. And a bunch of individual critics and film festivals.
Yep.
Because films go round.
They do. Speaking of going round...
Unless they're digital, in which case it gets more complicated.
It does. If it's on a disc, it goes round. A digital disc, yeah.
But once you get to solid state and flash memory...
And streaming.
Rather more complicated.
All right. Do you have anything else you wish to add?
Still no.
Still no.
Still
How about now?
No.
Okay. Do we have anything for the next segment?
That's a good question.
That is why I asked it.
I don't think there's anything on the Facebook.
Did our previous episode make it to the YouTubes?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Right. Did YouTube apologise profusely for slandering our good name?
I have not actually checked how that dispute has gone. In last week's episode, here's some context. Colin inserted when we were talking about Noscene 1. This was a Creative Commons licensed performance of it, and performance is the key word there.
Yes, the piece itself is in the public domain, but the performance can still have copyright over it. And each individual performance of. And
so, when you have a public domain piece and one that is reasonably repeatedly played, you get a lot of copyrighted performances that all sound rather similar.
Yes.
And so Content ID has
that sounds very much like this particular performance by somebody else, so we'll flag it.
Yes.
Okay. But it is now live, though.
Oh, yeah. The video still went live. The check said, you can go ahead, but we'll monetize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know where that's gone, because I haven't checked since.
Fair enough. All right.
Yes. So that happened.
Yes.
This all has distracted me from checking my usual haunts. Oh, in my marketing, I said, this week on Cellulose 3, which has definitely always been a Euro Truck Simulator 2 podcast, we talk about the 2011 film Hugo for some reason. Right. And Antuo replied, I thought it was a baseball podcast. Good news, it is again. And a media review podcast, and a film podcast, all in one tight 20-minute bundle.
Tight, very tight.
Yes. Or what are we looking at right now?
33 minutes.
Yeah, tight 20-minute bundle, that.
Yes.
But no, I think that might be it.
All right. We'll shout into the void once more and see if we get something back.
Lots of talk about a recent Welcome to Night Vale episode, which I'm not actually going to talk about because I think it's better listened to yourself if you haven't.
No idea what you're talking about.
It's their 9-year anniversary.
Who's there?
Welcome to Night Vale. It's a podcast.
So there's this podcast, and they're celebrating their 9th anniversary.
Had their 9th year anniversary.
And they had a big episode.
A very special episode. Not necessarily bigger than any other episode.
But specialer.
It's an interesting episode.
I put that word in there for Jeff.
Welcome to Night Vale is a narrative podcast about a town in the American Southwest called Night Vale, where everything's not quite right.
Right.
Or very not quite right, depending on which part you wander into.
So when you say it's a narrative, it's sort of like a radio play?
In universe, it is a radio broadcast.
Ah, okay.
About a town in the American Southwest where it's not quite right.
Right.
And
so you have the radio person shouting out to Mary Ellen for the birth of her sextuplets.
Weirder than that. Much weirder than that. This episode is sort of a follow-up to a recent episode in which this fictional town with writers who write the plot lines and the stories has accidentally maybe become real.
Right.
And this most recent episode is discussing some of the ramifications beyond which the earlier one, in a very podcasty way. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Good.
Now that you're thoroughly confused, we can move on to the next segment if there's nothing else.
I do believe there is nothing else. So let's move on to the next segment.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed. It's my turn.
It is your turn.
And last week, we were talking about possibly doing 2001 A Space Odyssey, and my options at the moment are that or a random selection.
Right.
It's a coin flip here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask Google to flip a coin?
Yeah, okay. Heads, it's 2001, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Google, flip a coin.
It landed on heads.
I guess it's 2001 A Space Odyssey next week.
It is indeed.
Then.
For those of you who have been living in... What was the name of that town again? Does 2001 A Space Odyssey exist in that town?
I don't know.
Okay.
For quite a while, it was a little unstuck in time.
Right.
Actor Lee Marvin was experiencing infinite 30th birthdays.
Good.
And then he decided he wanted to stop, and so time started working again.
Okay. However, in this universe, if you have not heard of 2001 A Space Odyssey, the Stanley Kubrick epic based on the writings of Arthur C. Clarke, I cannot remember whether they were written in parallel. I vaguely think they might have been.
Rabbit hole. Absolutely rabbit hole.
I think next time I'll go by way of Albuquerque.
Right, the novel came afterwards and was in part written concurrently with the screenplay.
All right.
Okay.
So can we have a plot synopsis?
Well, you can have a lot of praise from the back of the case.
I think I've already done that, haven't I?
Yeah.
I think I used the word epic and...
Okay. Stanley Kubrick's dazzling Academy Award-winning achievement is a compelling drama of man versus machine, a stunning meld of music and motion. Kubrick first visits our prehistoric ape ancestry past, then leaps millennia via one of the most mind-blowing jump cuts ever into colonized space, and ultimately whisks astronaut Bowman into uncharted space, perhaps even into immortality. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. Let an awesome journey unlike any other begin.
So, we hope that you can join us next week when we watch 2001 A Space Odyssey. and we can express our displeasure that man had not been journeying towards Jupiter in the year 2001. Who's to say? But the only way that you are going to find out is if you do join us next week.
Yes.
But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye. You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
Well, what a mess that was.
Yeah, that was...
Shall we record it again, right from the start?
That was... No, the first half I think was alright. It's the second half that's
Yeah.
a bit...
Naff. Yeah. Should we just sum up? And just do the sum up?
Yeah, okay. There was a film, and we watched the film,
Yeah.
and we thought it was reasonable.
It was good.
Yeah.
Good enough.
And then I talked about Night Vale,
Yeah.
and then we flipped a coin,
We did. Well, Google did.
and that went off to the cloud.
It did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it came back,
Yep.
and 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think that was it.
And then we said, we hope you join us next week.
Yeah.
Until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Do you get this feeling of deja vu?
No, I get this feeling of cutting room floor.
Do you get this feeling of deja vu?
No, I get this feeling of cutting room floor.
Do you get this feeling of deja vu?
No, I get this feeling of cutting room floor.
Oh yeah. Gee, I'm going to have fun with this one. Not. It's because you didn't take notes. It's all your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.